to the February Wednesday Morning Roundtable. I am not commenting about the weather. So, I would like to, first of all, remind everyone about the generosity of the YMCA and the fact that they support this program administratively and in lots of wonderful ways. And I was remiss last month in my duties in introducing the CEO, Chris Serino. Chris, would you? Welcome, Chris, and we are very, very grateful to you. Thank you. So today we're going to hear from Jenny Haynes and Christina Selvig. Jenny's going to frame up the comprehensive plan so we can understand the context in which the Riverfront project exists. The comprehensive plan was adopted in January of 2010, so we're just entering year 5. And I have had the pleasure of hearing some of this presentation before, and it's very exciting, and I'm very excited to bring it to you today. So, although I know these two women well and absolutely adore them, I don't have their bios committed to memory, so please forgive me while I give you some background on them, reading from my paper. Christina Selvig is the Director of Capital Projects and Grants with the City of Auburn Office of Planning and Economic Development. She has nearly 10 years of experience in historic preservation, downtown revitalization, economic development, and capital project funding and management. During her last 6 years with the City of Auburn, she has obtained federal, state, and private agency grants to leverage nearly $50 million in transportation, energy, public safety, downtown, and waterfront revitalization projects, the majority of which were recommendations from the city's comprehensive plan. Christina holds a Master's of Science and a Bachelor of Landscape Architecture degree from SUNY Environmental Science and Forestry, with a concentration in historic landscape preservation. Prior to her public service, Christina was the small business educator at Cornell Cooperative Extension of Cuyahoga County and the director for the Seneca Falls Heritage Area. Jennifer Haynes is Director of Planning and Economic Development for the City of Auburn. She has been with the city for all of her 21-year career and oversees planning, community development, economic development, and code enforcement functions. She was on the city staff team that managed the city's comprehensive plan process through the city's council's adoption in January 2010. Jenny holds master's and bachelor's degrees in business administration from Syracuse University and Fulton College. So welcome, and Jenny, if you would like to kick us off, and I'll be back to field some questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura, and thanks to all of you for having us today. We are really excited to be here to talk about this great project. It's been in the works for a few years, and so we're really happy to be at this point. And it is one of another amazing projects that's happening in our community, and I just want to cheerlead for just a minute. It's a really great time to be here in Auburn. It's a great place, great community. Our businesses and industry, our tourism, our downtown, we are really rocking here, and I think we need to clap. All right, so my job is to, as Laura said, set the stage a little bit for the Owasco River Greenway Trail as part of the city's comprehensive plan. And then I'm going to step aside for Christina, the main attraction for the trail project itself. So you're going to hear us planners, we always say, any good project starts with a plan and a vision for what things should look like. So yeah, blah, blah, blah. You guys always say that, but it's true. This is our comprehensive plan. As Laura said, it was adopted in January of 2010. Also on our website, if you want to take a look at it. And the projects and initiatives that we move forward, including the trail project, the grant funding we pursue, everything we work on, points back to this, and which includes a vision in there for Auburn. And I'm going to recognize you in just a minute, those of you who helped us with this vision, but we talked about Auburn as a dynamic place, a diverse community, heart of regional creativity, vibrant tourism, a green city, center of innovation, and a great place because its people come together to decide the city's future. So comprehensive adopted 5 years ago. The kind of the formal process was adoption by the City Council, unanimous 5-0 vote. That's kind of bragging rights as staff. We have 5-0 on that. And it was also formally recommended by the City Council, or the City Planning Board. So that was the end of the process. But before that, it took us 18 months of a really focused strategic process that we went through that resulted in the written document that we have today. Prior to this comprehensive plan, the last one that was done was in 1991. And it was time. We knew we needed to get some help from a consultant, and that was going to take some money. So we had some conversations and appreciated especially the conversation with Guy Cosentino, because the Stardust Foundation stepped up and funded half of our comprehensive plan. And after that, we knew there was no turning back. So the city matched that money, and we moved forward. The community had many opportunities to provide input into the plan. We had visioning workshops and focused meetings on particular topics, including housing and neighborhoods, downtown, the Owasco River, and business development. And in that process, we had well over 200 people that were participating and gave us really essential feedback for the plan. At that point, we actually had an advisory committee that kind of crafted that input and feedback with us. It was a group of 12 people, represented a diverse cross-section of city residents. We have, I think, 3 of them in the room today. Jessie Klein was there. She was representing the Blueprint Group, especially interested in river issues. Meg Vanek, Meg, you're here, representing county tourism, and Ginny Kent, who was on the school board at the time. We also had a city councilor, a county legislator. We had some business folks on there. So it was a really great group of people. And they were responsible for really expanding and refining the ideas that we heard from the community input and helping city staff and consultants through that process. And the city staff team at that time, Steve Selvik was kind of led the comprehensive plan process from the staff side, as well as Crystal Purcell Cosentino, who was on the city staff then. So they were really instrumental in moving it forward. So the committee, those of you that are here, you know you put lots and lots of time and hours into helping us get through that process. So the comp plan was ultimately drafted with a series of chapters. That's kind of how we organized it. We talked about boosting downtown, revitalizing neighborhoods, shaping business growth, creating a welcoming community, simplifying and improving development, and the reason we are here today, re-engaging the Owasco River. So, like I said, every good project starts with a good plan. And some of you that have been around in the community know that a trail project following the river has been in really good plans for about 40 years. So what's different now? How are we able to move this forward now? Well, one thing is the mastermind, Christina Selvik. She wasn't even around 40 years ago, so that is definitely one thing that's different. Christina, she really took this project on, found the right source of funding, federal funding source, Federal Highway Administration, and got the money to get the plan for the trail done. And just so you understand how really amazing this is, she squeezed $590,000 out of a federal agency for a planning grant. Really competitive process. So not only that, they came to Auburn to monitor us. You guys that have grants know monitoring visits are really, really fun. They came to monitor the grant, and they said that the grant was being implemented better than they had seen by any grantee across the country. Community has always been a really great part of the process. And we have spent a lot of time with the community. This has been about 4 years that we've been working through this process. Lots and lots of meetings and lots of feedback. Overall, really, really supportive people in the community for this project. We've had some people that have had concerns and challenges with this. We've listened hard and we've changed how the project is going to look from what we originally had a vision for. So we really appreciate the community input into that. The third thing, our team. We also have a steering committee or an advisory committee for this project. Our city staff, planning office, Steve Selvik, is actually going to be He just walked in, he's over there. He's going to be leading us through the next part of this project, through the detailed design of the first phase of construction. So he's really key to this. Our fire, police, engineering, DPW, they have provided really key input, as well as our partners at the county. County planning and county parks have been really, really instrumental in giving us great feedback for this as well. So our team. And last, the fourth thing, but not least, is our leadership. Mayor Mike Quill and Doug Selby, our city manager, have been really supportive and advocated for this project for us. They understand the importance of this project as a quality of life benefit for our community and providing focus and visual access to the Owasco River. So these are the kind of things that keep our young professionals here, will keep my sons here, Christina's daughters, your sons and daughters. These are the kinds of things that we want in our community to make it a fun place to live and a great place to live. But the mayor and city manager also understand that this project is also about tourism. It's also about economic development. This project is going to bring money into our community. And if you guys are interested, there's a report about this thick over there, and part of it talks about the economic benefits of this trail. Christina's going to talk about that in a little bit more detail. So we appreciate the leadership that we've had around this as well. So we're really excited this is happening. One of the really fun things for us is seeing these projects go from paper into the ground, and Christina will be talking about that process. And I'm going to step aside for her. Thanks.
Morning. Morning.
Hard to follow up after all these activities, so thank you.
But it's definitely not a one-woman show in that office. I think you all know. I think under Jenny's leadership in the planning department, she's definitely encouraged her staff to grow and pursue projects that probably have never really been possible in this community. And a lot of it is based on the comp plan. Without that comp plan, in my mind, we probably never would have been awarded, grant funding to pursue design funds. So really, everyone had a part of that, and we have hundreds of people come out to work on a comp plan. It really means something to the community. So that's really great. So to start us off this morning, I have a couple of images. The first one actually is for our proposed trailhead. For those of you that are not familiar with the River Trail area, the Wadsworth Street area, which is on the northwest quadrant of the city, where the river basically starts to turn to go north, was a former site factory, agricultural equipment factory. It is one of our brownfields within the EPA brownfield program, and we would like to reclaim that as parkland. We actually do have Forever Wild property there already, so reutilizing that for a public park does make sense. It is an extremely gorgeous site. It allows you water access, plus the ruins there from the agricultural facilities are still there. So in the orange is where we'd actually like to use that for interpretation, and we want to recognize the archaeology and the sensitivity of that site and start to bring that into this interpretation process as we start to go through the trail. Next slide. Jenny touched on this. The background for the trail has a strong foundation in our comprehensive plan. People mentioned we want to have more reconnection to the water, leverage it as here she is. So 4 years later, this is what staff and our consultants have been able to come up with to safely get pedestrians and cyclists through downtown and make a strong connection between our northwest side of the city and Emerson Park. So Owasco Park is over on this end. It basically takes us through over to the correctional facility, through downtown, down into a gorgeous area where the Mill Street Dam facility is, down to State Dam, and then ultimately the high school area in Emerson Park. And I'd like to take you through each of these sections in further detail. Next slide, please. So the Wadsworth Park area, you saw one of the proposals for the park itself, which is named as node number 1. In addition to the trail itself, we wanted to take opportunities for scenic overlooks, areas where people could actually enjoy the waterfront. I know most of the residents understand that we have a river that runs right through the middle of our community, but I don't think people really truly understand or appreciate really how valuable that is to the community and what that could do for leveraging other assets in the community. So the proposed concepts that we have down below, one is actually for a pedestrian bridge to cross over the river. This is actually the Nice Egg property right here on Clark Street. They are going through a brownfield restoration project right now, and ultimately our goal is to reclaim that as city property to allow us access to get over to Dunn McCarthy. So the pedestrian bridge would basically go from Clark Street over the river, connect to the west side of Dunn McCarthy where the CSO facility is, and then it would follow the river on the north side there. The other area that you see over there, that's actually our other CSO facilities. CSOs are combined sewer overflow facilities. These were projects that we did in the late 1990s to address sewer issues in the city. So they're mini pretreatment sites. This site actually has good access from the Wadsworth Trailhead over to Aurelius Ave, so we want to make use of that. And there's actually really great former foundations. It's actually another brownfield site. So this section here actually revitalizes 4 brownfield sites within the city of Auburn. We're going to be reclaiming a site for trailhead parking, the trailhead itself, where the CSO facility is, and then of course Dunn McCarthy. Next slide, please. I'm going to skip downtown just for a little bit. Our next section that I wanted to talk about was where Mill Street Dam is, down to our other state dam. The state dam is actually the dam that controls the lake levels and the river flow. This section, we really would like to propose more people to be able to get down towards the water, more access, good visibility. This is an area that we're working closely with our police officers as well. There's questions about safety and access and that type of thing. So this is not a section that we currently have construction funding for, but it is a section that we would like to pursue in the very near future because it definitely affords you the opportunity to walk along the riverfront more so than the northwest side does. Next slide, please. State Dam to Lake Ave. We struggled with this section through the design process. We have some very strong neighborhood feelings, particularly along the Pulsifer Drive area. So we were listening to them. If they're not supportive of projects, we want to try to be creative and work with people. The city was actually successful in getting further grant construction funding to redo Lake Ave over the next couple of years. That project is scheduled to start in, I think, 2016 or 2017 for design. Lake Ave, because of the very large right-of-way that we have, which is basically the street frontage, would afford us to actually do designated bike lanes there, and already has existing sidewalks, so that would be a very easy, adaptable area for us to be able to get people from downtown down towards the lake area. And please stop me if you have questions. It's not as I'm going along. I wanted to try to show you guys as much as possible. We've been working very hard on these conceptual drawings, where things are going So this was the section that we were able to leverage for construction funds. So Jenny, when we were going through crazy, if anyone's written CFA grants, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Through that crazy nightmare time, and state DOT also has to put out a grant at the same time. So, and Jenny's wisdom, sure, we could do it. We could do it. So we did, and we applied, and sure enough, we got construction funds for downtown. So we're so excited because what that does, it allows us to move on to detail design for the downtown section. So that's the process that we're in right now. We are physically looking at each of the roadways, what their width is, what type of shared use lanes, designated bike lanes, the multi-use areas that we're going to have. So the circle that's up there is roughly the project boundaries that we're going to be working in. And the goal was to create a couple of loops in downtown. Hopefully, we might have an issue with right away, but we want to look a loop up to the West Garden Street area because that portion of the river in downtown is very different than the area that's over by Market Street, and then a walking loop over in the Mill Street area and in Canal Street. Next slide. One of the things that we wanted to bring back to the project was something that we weren't able to get to as part of the Market Street project. There was strong interest from the community when we were going through the Market Street revitalization project was to get people down to the water. We do have to be very careful in this area with ice damming, wintertime conditions, that sort of thing. Our first envision was, some type of lowered trail that goes under the bridges and, really kind of zips you through downtown. You miss all of downtown. So what we'd like to do is some type of small boardwalk idea. The mayor in his travels has these great, images of boardwalks from Alaska and other things, and we'd like to try to incorporate some of that. What a great place to view the docks, So what this actually does is take people from the road level down closer to the water, and it definitely will encourage people and remind them that we have this natural resource right in our downtown. So it'll be that section right there along Loop Road, lowered, and then you can actually basically get down to the water. We're going to have to talk about seasonal access, other things with plans, but we really would like to move this idea forward. I think it would be a great thing for downtown. Next slide, please. Economic benefits. I had to write myself a few notes on this one. So the trail site itself is about 12 miles long, is where we ended up with. By the time we go through the roads and, make the loops and other things. So as part of that, we really wanted to leverage our brownfield sites. Being historically a manufacturing community, a lot of our manufacturing was along the riverfront. So these sites definitely dominate the riverfront, and reuse of those sites right now for this purpose makes a lot of sense. So we have 5 of those being reused. The 1.9 million in economic benefits that's listed up there. We had to do some cost benefit analysis for DOT as part of the project in order to advance it to construction. A lot of these are non-market values to the community. So when we talk about increased mobility for transportation for low to moderate income families that are in these neighborhoods that we're trying to connect to downtown and to the parks, increased health and physical activity. You may see that through decreased doctor visits or other things, but it may not necessarily come through economic development in downtown. Reduced dependency on the automobile. Everyone's talking about carbon emissions and what that's doing for the greenhouse impacts right now. So we want people to think of alternatives, maybe not on days like today, but when they do have nice weather, get out those bicycles or walk to work, or encourage that more. So those recreational benefits, the fitness, the outdoor recreation, and the dog walkers. We have a very passionate dog walker group in the community that have wanted a dog park for a long time. I think this will help some of that to give them a truly safe place, a well-lit place 36 weeks of actual usage, mostly because, and I know you didn't talk about the weather, but
I saved it for you.
how can you not? You know, and so 36 weeks of approximately good heavy usage, about 600 people a day, so it's about 4,000 a week, believe it or not, and that's where we get our 144 number. And I already talked to them on monetary benefits, but you know, as a mom with 2 young girls, you know, I think that the young people in this community are really, they're looking for more. They're looking for new ideas. They want us to leverage what we have, and you know, what better asset than our own river? I know the city has been moving ahead their hydroelectric redevelopment projects. You know, that's something else that we really would like to interpret. It's actually the North Division Street hydro facility there. You know, we've got businesses, existing businesses that already understand how important the river is and use that to their advantage. So I think this project could really lead to good things in the community. Next slide. So that's what we have to show you this morning. I'm just, as you can tell, very excited about this project. It's been 40 plus years in the making. The county had their trail proposal done in the 1970s, and you know, it's just very exciting to be part of this 40 years later.
I'm going to ask you to stay right up here, if you don't mind, and I'm just going to kind of scan the audience for questions. Who would like to kick us off? Yes?
Wondering what the timing was for construction.
So the downtown section, we do have construction money for. We are doing the detailed design. We'll have those approved by DOT this fall. We're going to go out to a competitive bid, and you'll actually see physical downtown construction starting next summer. So we're very excited about that. So particularly the Canal Street, Mill Street area will be vastly different and improved. And then the downtown section is mostly going to be on-road components to create those trail loops. The rest of the trail, like I said, we do have construction money for the Lake Ave piece. And from there, that's what I guess keeps me employed. So I got funding. Funding is always a question for this. You know, right now, federal highway says that trails and getting people out for physical activity is important. So as long as that remains a federal and state priority, then there's funds available for this type of work. It's not all going to be available through grant money. It's almost virtually impossible to do that these days. But you know, we're doing the best we can to not put the burden on our general fund for these quality of life projects. So, but hopefully, I think the goal was by 2021 to have everything completely constructed.
Cynthia?
Is money for signage incorporated in each of the phases?
Yes.
Okay, because we have done, in the past, where we've done a project and then signage didn't get done and it didn't get done and it didn't get done.
DOT loves their signs. So if anyone on Genesee Street, South Street, so yes, so we definitely have to do walker and cyclist signage, and you know, actually thanks to the county, the wayfinding, you know, sign work that was done is going to be a huge help, because a lot of that actually gives examples for DOT approved signage already. So it's not something that our design team has to revisit and spend time on. So we're trying to leverage things that have already been done. Community people have spent a lot of time and hard work on, and you know, bring it all together into one good project.
Rob?
Have you determined how this is going to go, like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3? I think I just heard you say that downtown was the first step.
Yes, downtown is phase 1.
And then what would be the second?
It would be nice if the connection between Mill Street and Lake Ave could be the second phase. I think that's the most interesting area that the community has to offer to residents in terms of being able to physically get up agricultural community. So we want to take some care with that site and do it right, to preserve the foundations that are there and do a good interpretation. Our thought is actually to partner with the schools for that site, because it does allow them some really good access to the water for their science classes and other things. So that's kind of downtown first, and then we'll work on it from there.
Is there any collaboration with the county regarding Emerson Park or Owasco?
Yes, Gary is on our steering committee, so when we get to the high school piece, we definitely will be bringing him on board to make sure we're still in alignment with what they're wanting to do as well and connections. So yes.
Christine, I have a question. I'll grab you next morning. The archaeological sensitivity, you were talking about the Wadsworth, there's a mill there. What was the one near the high school, that point that you were talking about? Is that also a mill?
That, so not manufacturing history, that actually has Native American historical components to that, so that's what the state is concerned with. Thanks.
Maureen?
Could you list the 5 brownfields and maybe show where those are on the map?
Sure. Why don't we go, why don't you go to the big one? So a lot of them are concentrated, go back one. Yes. So the Wadsworth area, that large trailhead is actually, I think now that there's 6 that I'm thinking about it, is actually comprised of 2 sites. And that's where the former manufacturing site for agricultural products was. There's a little yellow section next to the second node. That is also a brownfield site. That would be ideal for parking for the trailhead. And then we have John McCarthy, of course, and then 9 Owasco Street, which is where the old woolen mills was, down by Mill Street, the facility. That is also a brownfield site as well. So those are the ones that we will be reclaiming for parkland. Yeah, Dorothea.
You mentioned 36 weeks of usage, but do you envision that might be, you might have year-round access? I mean, we do have 16 weeks of whatever someone's embraced that, so whether it's snowshoeing or just getting down there when you're with the dogs or whatever.
Right, we won't be maintaining the trails at that point is basically, I guess, what I was getting to. We had thought about non-motorized winter use, so if there is cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, the dog walkers are very persistent people, and no matter what, they're out in the water. So we do envision that, and that's something we're working through a maintenance plan right now with our DPW and what is feasible, from their reduced resources over the years to make sure that we're not placing additional burden on them, just to keep up with streets and other things in the wintertime. So we may be able to close certain sections that are not vital to the full preferred trail route, but maybe keep certain sections open for those type of uses in the wintertime.
Yes.
So when this is done, you'll be able to walk from Wadsworth to Emerson Park on a trail, not on the street, except for Lake Avenue. At Lake, you come up and you're on the sidewalk on Lake Avenue.
Right. The whole trail is an intermix of on-street, off-street. So that's where signage is going to come in and be very, very important. We, through the community process and through direction from council, there was not a lot of support to do private property takings for this project. So our design team struggled and had to get very creative how to use our existing public rights-of-way to make these connections.
Did you mention how many miles it is?
12.
12. Yes, Rob?
On the street level that you're doing, are you envisioning expanding the sidewalks, or like Lake Avenue? I drive it every day, and it doesn't seem like it has really wide sidewalks.
Yep.
For a lot of traffic.
We have not gotten to that portion of the design process. What we had provided DOT was a logical termini, and We actually do have a strong cycling group and community, particularly out of Owasco, the Vallejo Club, and then we have a major growing cycling program through regional tourism, as Meg well knows. So in the summertime, it's very well used, and one of their frustrations is a safe way to get through downtown. So right now, they completely avoid downtown when they're going out and doing their morning routes. So what they have expressed to us is they would love to be able on their return to be able to stop downtown and actually utilize the services that are there.
Spend money.
Yes, that's what we're hoping.
Cynthia, did you have a question?
I wondered if you know the breakdown between street parts of the trail and waterfront parts of the trail in terms of, is it 2 miles on river and 10 miles on streets?
I don't have that for you right now. It's something I can definitely get back out to the group.
I think that's what we're curious about.
Yes, I am working in the areas. I think you're going to see more on street than off street. The Osborne section, we're proposing to use the sewer easement that's there. That was done in the 90s. That's going to take a lot of work with the property owners to convince them to allow access on that sewer easement. So we do have Plan B, but that is definitely Plan A, and hopefully get to reuse that for public purposes.
Dan?
It's a detailed question, but what do you want to have this called and named? I guess I've heard it called Riverwalk or Trail. I guess I'm thinking that there's something to be communicated in what we call this.
I have a feeling it's still going to evolve over time. We initially applied for multimodal funding, so that's why the project name had multimodal in it.
I don't like that.
I know. He doesn't have good mouthfeel, as we say, Randy.
When you're going after the grant money, you got to give them what they want to see. And, leveraging this as a transportation project was one of the easiest ways to get this off the ground. And the entire chapter is devoted to re-engaging the waterfront. So, as an office, how could we not try to pick up that torch and move it forward? So, being creative as we are, so that's where the multimodal piece kind of started. I don't see that sticking. Then it kind of morphed into the community meetings and saying, we want to preserve the greenness, the recreational, the environmental qualities that the river has to the community. And so that's kind of where the greenway component came in now, and that helps us leverage other potential state funding at the moment. But Syracuse and others have literally just called the Riverwalk, and ultimately we probably will get to something very simple from a tourism standpoint to be able to point people to the Owasco River Walk or something of that sort.
Maureen?
My question is on using the water. I envision people would probably be fishing along the trail, and I promise I won't take my kayak over the dam, but where and how can people actually use the water, or are we trying to not encourage any, don't touch the water, just look at it?
Loaded question, yeah?
That's a tough one. The city code, I think right now, actually prohibits people from accessing the water. So no motorized or kayak parks, etc., that we could actually use in the river itself. But from a pedestrian standpoint, we really want to get people up close to the river, which is why you see all these circles or nodes, as we call them, places for people to gather and actually be able to get up close to the water. We were sensitive to the anglers that came to the community meetings, so we wanted to make sure there was good fishing, I'm told, by the state dam area. So that was one area we wanted to provide access, as well as Mill Street. So from that standpoint, we're doing the best we can based upon our topography. We have a lot of drop along the riverfront, and there's some very steep topography as it goes down to the river. So we want to be mindful of that as well.
Like in the Wadsworth, the Wadsworth Park area, is it possible to put a kayak in there and then head north?
That section, I have heard of people doing that. Right now, technically, the code doesn't allow that, but we're going
Jane?
I just have a quick question about the value of real estate, because I know that there's a lot of concern by some homeowners, but in other communities that have done this work to improve the riverfront, it opens up an opportunity for really wonderful real estate along there. If you look into that and how that might impact economic development at all,
Yeah.
I think it would raise all votes, actually.
Yep, and we're working with the assessor's office too to talk about how that's worked in other communities. And it's definitely been proven that the value, when there is investment in and along waterfront, the lake is a really great example of that. I think everyone knows and values the lake, and understands what the property values are like in and around the lake. It's really a different situation with the river because of its historical use. Having those manufacturing connections, and it wasn't necessarily the desired neighborhoods that you would want to invest in or be part of. But I think once you actually do start investing in these areas, you're going to see a big change, probably in the Owasco and Osborne neighborhoods as well.
Christina, will there be opportunities for entrepreneurs to come into some of those sites and start small businesses, refreshments, rentals, things like that?
That's a great idea.
Thanks.
We can start to incorporate some of that.
Okay.
The trailhead is kind of where I see that happening.
Okay.
We're struggling if we want to have restrooms available at that location. So when we get to that point and start doing detailed design, possibly doing that, right? Good idea.
Excellent. Anybody else? Guy?
So the elephant in the room, how much? In pieces, because some of it, like for example, would be road work, so don't count that in if you don't have to. What's the trail itself?
The trail itself, the number that we've been using is between 10 and 12 million. The bridge, the pedestrian bridge is really the big piece. That's going to be the big costly component because of the engineering that needs to go in there, the work with the Army Corps, safety issues, other things. Downtown alone, we're at about a 1.6 million construction project. So if we add the design to that, we're already at about 2.1 for the project.
Mike?
Christina, correct me if I'm wrong, but I was always told that the elevation drop from Emerson Park to the term to Wadsworth Park is greater than Niagara Falls height.
That's what I heard too.
It's amazing how, over, it's much longer distance, but what the actual drop is. So.
Well, and that's why it makes sense to do the hydro development along the river as well.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Could you elaborate on the plan between State Street and North Street in the downtown area, specifically the West Garden area?
Yes.
Yeah, I might have. Just out of the blue.
So the West Garden loop that we're proposing, this is actually going to be pedestrian only. We're not going to be encouraging cyclists to go through this area. It won't be marked for cyclists. Of course, people are going to go where they're going to want to go. One of the concerns in the community meetings was adding cyclists to the North Street section there. It's already difficult from the tractor trailer standpoint. So we didn't want to particularly encourage visitors to be cycling that section. So that section is actually meant for mostly pedestrian enhancements at this point. The West Garden piece actually is between Health Central and then the DOT right-of-way that we have for Arterial West. That is a section that we are very closely looking at. That would be mostly pedestrian sidewalk signage type of enhancements in that area.
Would you be going under the bridge at all, doing anything like that? No.
I would have loved to. And when our engineers looked at it, like I said, with the rise of the water levels, particularly in the springtime and the ice damming, there's definitely some very serious safety concerns trying to get people under the bridge. I think that experience would have been really unique for the community, but we wanted to make sure people were staying safe when they're using the trail.
Rob?
So, can I ask how much it would cost, what's the ongoing cost to the city after we build
city-owned property, brownfield. We have issues with illegal dumping, extracurricular activities going on there. People accessing the water when they're not supposed to be. It's very difficult to get public safety and emergency vehicles down there the way that the site is currently laid out. It's been proven time and time again in other communities that when you actually do bring investment to these sites, that it's much easier for public safety to patrol it, keep it safe. And like I said, we're working through a management plan with DPW right now to make sure we're not placing any unnecessary burden on their already restricted budget.
But like trail maintenance, cleanup, all that stuff, you don't have any proposed numbers or something like that?
Okay, so, we have the management plan in its framework right now, but we're gonna have to work through that, with DPW. I don't have specific numbers for that right now, Al.
What we're looking at, budget item, that would be significant.
A lot of this is existing sidewalks along rights-of-way, so it's just basically repairing sidewalks or expanding them slightly. So the change in snow removal is minimal.
Got it.
So the governor's got this 1.5 billion, I'm sure you're not getting any headaches on that at all. Any of this eligible possibly for any of the upstate money or the Red Sea money?
That's a great question, and we're working through that. So we are aware of what the governor's offering. We'll see what his budget includes and whether or not the legislature is supportive of his proposal. If they are, the city is definitely well prepared to propose a number of projects. The trail is definitely one of them, but I don't want to forget how important Harriet Tubman has been to the community too, and making sure that it took us 10 years to get that legislation passed, which is really awesome. That we keep that momentum going and pursue that as well.
One more question? Anybody? All right. Oh, Jessie.
Any more detail about the section that'll be on Loop Road? It looked like it was a lowered area, like what that would offer people?
Other than the design I have there, that is a section that we didn't get to as part of the Market Street area. So I'm envisioning some type of, almost a boardwalk style, cantilever style that kind of reaches out over the water. You're able to walk down to it, because it will be reset for the roadway. It'll be a really nice addition, just the rotary, just their pocket in one corner, this right across the way. Definitely improving that section of downtown.
Well, thank you, Christina, and thank